Hey there and welcome to Scandal Steep. The story of Johnnie Taylor is as complex as it is iconic. A man who began his musical journey as a child, Taylor first found his voice at the tender age of 8, belting out gospel tunes in a small church. That early exposure to soulful music became the foundation of an extraordinary career, one that would eventually span genres, challenge norms, and captivate audiences across generations. His rise to stardom began in earnest when he crossed paths with the legendary Sam Cooke. Cooke, impressed by Taylor's raw talent and unique charisma, took him under his wing, launching what would become one of the most impactful careers in black music history. Johnnie was not just a singer, he was a force of nature, blending gospel, blues, soul, R&B, and disco in a way that few could replicate. With every note, he poured out his soul, and listeners felt it deeply. Taylor's vocal style was unmistakable, rough yet smooth, soulful yet edgy. It was the kind of voice that could raise goosebumps, taking you from the depths of sorrow to the heights of joy in a single track. Whether he was preaching through a gospel number or seducing the dance floor with a disco anthem, Johnnie delivered with passion and precision. Perhaps most notably, Johnnie made history with his 1976 smash hit Disco Lady, which became the first single in music history to earn platinum status. That record was so groundbreaking, it literally forced the industry to create a new certification level to accommodate his achievement. But behind the fame and accolades was a man with a complex life, one filled with contradictions, vices, and unresolved legacies. Johnnie Taylor's life was steeped in both brilliance and controversy. His musical genius was undeniable, but so were the whispers about his personal habits. As his fame grew in the 60s and 70s, so did his indulgence in the chaos that often accompanies stardom. He struggled with addiction, legal troubles, and tumultuous relationships. Friends and family watched as he wrestled with demons, some of which would follow him into his final years. Taylor's personal life, particularly his relationships with women, became a defining and sometimes divisive element of his story. Known for his irresistible charm and smooth-talking ways, Johnnie was a magnet for attention. But with that attention came responsibility he didn't always rise to meet. Over the years, it became clear that Johnnie had fathered numerous children, at least 10, by most accounts across multiple relationships. While he tried to keep them united, many of his children grew up feeling neglected or distanced, not fully embraced by their famous father. When Johnnie passed away on May 31, 2000, the aftermath was as dramatic as the life he led. His estate, valued at around $2 million, became the center of a heated dispute. There was no will, no clear direction for how his assets should be divided, and no simple answers to the complicated question of who his rightful heirs were. One of his daughters, Latasha Taylor, herself a singer, spoke out about the difficulties she and her siblings faced in trying to secure royalties and rights to their father's legacy. She highlighted how record labels often used vague, undocumented debts as reasons to withhold payments. Despite Johnnie's catalog continuing to generate revenue, the transparency from those handling his affairs was sorely lacking. "We need full disclosure," she said, "not just numbers on a page that keep us in the dark." Adding to the complexity was the question of paternity. Were all of Johnnie's children known? Were some never told about him at all? Did he himself know the full extent of his offspring? These questions took center stage as new individuals emerged after his death, each claiming to be one of Johnnie Taylor's children. One of the first to come forward was Fonda Bryant, a woman from North Carolina who had spent most of her life unaware of her true parentage. According to her, she'd always had suspicions, but it wasn't until after Johnnie's death that her mother confirmed the truth: Johnnie Taylor was her father. Urged by her mother to take action, Fonda filed a petition with a probate court in Dallas to be legally recognized as an heir. Fonda's story took the family and the public by storm. Suddenly, the number of potential heirs grew from 6 to 7, and the family feud intensified. But the surprises didn't stop there. During a court appearance later that year, another man named Tyrone T.J. Hooker stepped forward, also claiming to be one of Johnnie's biological children. T.J. wasn't an unfamiliar face to the Taylor family. In fact, Johnnie had mentored him as a young musician, even introducing him to some of his acknowledged children years earlier. Still, Johnnie had never publicly claimed him as a son. With TJ's revelation, the battle over Johnnie's estate grew even more complicated. Despite the tension, Fonda and TJ found solace in each other. Realizing they were fighting the same fight, they quickly formed a bond and began working together to establish their rightful place in Johnnie's legacy. Just as the dust began to settle around their claims, a third person, Chiffon Brown, entered the picture, declaring that she, too, was Johnnie Taylor's daughter. Unlike Fonda and TJ, Chiffon had something more concrete to bolster her claim. Johnnie's name appeared on her birth certificate. While she had never met him in person, her mother had always told her who her father was. She grew up staring at album covers, wondering what it would have been like to know him. When she finally saw photos of Johnnie's children, she saw herself in them: shared features, familiar expressions. The connection, she said, was undeniable. At this point, Johnnie's acknowledged children, 6 in total, had no choice but to regroup. What had started as a routine inheritance matter had turned into a whirlwind of unexpected siblings and DNA tests. And just when it seemed the situation couldn't get any more tangled, Johnnie's ex-wife Jerlene, the mother of his 2 youngest children, re-entered the fray. Jerlene and Johnnie had divorced only a month before his death, but according to court documents, she was entitled to 50% of his estate under the divorce settlement. That meant before any of the children could receive their share, half of everything, including Johnnie's $1.2 million Dallas mansion, was already spoken for. But the estate couldn't be settled until all potential heirs had been verified, which meant Fonda, TJ, and Chiffon needed to undergo DNA testing.